Fred and Judith spoke at one of my lecture series at Benedictine, and I just learned so much. That was on their book, Opening Doors to Teamwork and Collaboration. And I just love that book. I love everything about that book. I have given my book to so many people to read, but I think I've read, how many books do you all have now out?
Seven.
A total of
Seven?
seven. Seven.
Seven. Wow. And of course, we're here today to talk about the power of agency, cultivating autonomy, authority, and leadership in every role. And I just think agency is, it's such an important topic. And, I'm so excited that some of my students will be here and some of them will be watching. I was telling Judith, one of my favorite stories from when they spoke at Benedictine was when she talked about at the designer Eileen Fisher, before every meeting, they have 2 minutes of focus at the beginning. And I have done that in some classes. And, sometimes I say, well, we're a semi-democracy. Who wants to continue with it? And always students want to continue with it because it just really helps you get focused and become present. And I think that is, that's just one of the most important things. Before you introduce yourselves, if you could I would like to encourage everybody to go to isodc.org for the International Society for Organization Development and Change. This is an incredible group of OD scholars and practitioners who are trying to create a better world. And they have free membership
Hi,
if you're a
Dr.
student.
Barker.
Oh, hi. So that is, that's really awesome as well. But I want to encourage you to check out that organization, and I'm going to turn it over to you to get going.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you very much for having us, and thank everybody for joining us. It's always a treat for us to talk and interact with people and hear your thinking and share ours. These are just incredible times that we're living in. I'm Fred Miller with the Khalil Jameson Consulting Group. We're a management consulting firm that specializes in organization betterment. We used to talk about organization change, but nobody wants to be changed. But people want to get better. So we're talking about betterment. So it's great to be here. I'm located in Troy, New York. And I'll say a little bit more about the firm. But basically, the firm has been around for 55 years, which makes us the oldest firm in OD and oldest organization and organization change. I think that's it. And I'm having a blast. I'm having a good, if you like change, this is a good time to be alive. If you don't like change, go find a cave. But this is kind of where we are right now. And this is Judith Katz.
Hi there, everybody. So good to see people. I would love to see your faces if it's possible as well. So we like cameras on so we can actually see people. I live in DC, Washington, DC, and thank you, Holly. Fred and I have been business partners since 1985. So it's been a long, wonderful, productive connection with each other. And I'll introduce Tara. Why don't you introduce yourself and then we can put the slides up.
Sure. Tara Whittle. I'm Vice President of Strategy for Khalil Jameson. I've been with the firm 26 years this month, which seems impossible. I live part of the time in Troy, New York, where our offices are, and the other half of my life I spend in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Great.
So we have a lot to say, so we're going to talk fast and go through some slides. We'll just show you the header or a couple of comments, and the whole slide deck's available. So I would encourage you to get the slide deck.
And if it's okay, if somebody has a question, could they do a little shout out? Is that okay? Or should we hold them to the end?
No, they can electronically or just wave.
Okay, yeah, because we really want this to be an exchange. Yeah, thank you,
Kimberly, if you see a hand and we don't,
okay,
just interrupt us at the end of this thing. I'll go back a slide.
Sure.
So the power of agency, unleashing individual and team agency. It's really, Judith and I started writing the book on this about now 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we had heard the word, and a colleague of ours, one of our clients, had talked about agency and then talked about it related to people in the organization. As soon as I heard it, I was like, wow, this is good. And Judith and I were thinking about what would be our next book. And when I came back to her and said, it's about agency. I think we need to talk about agency. So it was, nobody was really talking about it. And then we started writing about it. And by the time we put our book out, which came out a year ago, all of a sudden, it's a word that's now becoming common. Although few people are defining it, many people are talking about it related to individual agency.
Mhm.
Nope, we wrote the first book about it related to organization, team, agency. Why do you get agency in the organization? And that's what this presentation is about. And we're very excited about it. Next slide. Talked about the firm, oldest OD firm, established in 1970. We are a management consulting firm that uses organization development, OD, to bring about large total system betterment that unleashes agency for all and creates interactions that accelerate results. The work's always about the bottom line.
Sorry.
How are we helping the bottom line move forward? How are we helping organizations be better? And today, for organizations to be better, it's about the people. It's about having the people engage. Talk a little bit more about AI and the people, but the people are instrumental to that. Next slide. So if you want a copy of our slide deck, you can contact us. Periodically we send out essays about things. I would encourage it to join us. Like I said earlier, I went to a conference, World Business Forum in New York City for the last 2 days.
Mm.
And the last two speakers, Steph Gooden and Breen Brown, were the two speakers, and they blew me away. I've not written notes from speakers' talks in so long, in 10 years. And so my next essay, which one's coming out like today or tomorrow, but the one after that will be my learnings coming out of it. They were amazing. The thing that Breen Brown said was organizations got 5 years to get their act together. If you don't have your act together in 5 years, and then this massive change going on. And we can all just think about the change in the last year. I mean, how many of us were using ChatGPT a year ago? And how many of us can't, me included, live without it right now?
Mhm.
It's one of my aids to being. I was never big on the computer thing and using computers and blah, 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 blah. ChatGPT changed my life. Okay, next slide.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about agency, individual and team agency. We've really been trying to use the words individual and team agency as part of a discussion about it. And I'm going to read just a little bit from the book. And as I'm reading, I'd like you to think about, have you ever seen, heard, or been a part of an organization or consulted to an organization in which some of these dynamics occur? Okay. The early morning meeting with the CEO and upper-level managers of the organization was a good one, and Jamie left feeling optimistic. She was glad she had come in today for this meeting rather than attending virtually from home. She had been with the company for 5 years, was rated a high performer with high potential, and had recently started taking part in these strategy sessions. She appreciated being invited to the table and liked being able to see the big picture, which helped her better understand where her work fit in. As she made her way back to her desk, ideas for new projects bubbled in her mind. She was excited to bounce her thoughts off her team and try out some fresh initiatives. But when she shared her ideas with one of her colleagues, he was not as excited. There you go again, being optimistic, he said. You know what usually happens. They act positive in the meeting, and then later they change their minds. Jamie walked back to her desk and began writing an email to her manager, Christina. But as she began to outline some of her ideas, she felt her energy fading. Even though she was Christina's right-hand person and felt that Christina valued her as a team member, this didn't translate into having the freedom to add value and implement her own thinking. When it came to taking action, Christina treated Jamie like a junior member of the organization, someone who needed constant oversight and supervision. When Christina did give Jamie tasks or allow her to implement one of her own ideas, Jamie felt the strings that came along with it, the micromanagement, second guessing of her actions, and required frequent check-ins that seemed more about easing Christina's risk-averse mindset than about continuous improvement or coaching and mentoring. In short, Jamie felt smothered. As she finished the email, Jamie sat back and stared at the words on the screen. She knew they were good ideas, but the optimism from the morning's meeting faded in the face of the reality of working at her organization. The more she thought about it, she realized her colleague was right, and that her ideas would go nowhere. She had been down this path before, and it was exhausting. Christina, with whom Jamie had a good relationship, still made sure every I was dotted, every T was crossed, and that every idea or project was dissected and discussed with her and others before it could even start to be implemented. Though Jamie knew Christina's intentions were good, her comments instead felt controlling and smothering. This slowed Jamie down, undermined her, and stifled her creativity. Jamie felt as if she was just there to carry out instructions, to act more as a doer than someone with expertise who could truly add value to the organization. Sometimes she felt the organization was run by committee and lacked an entrepreneurial spirit, which in turn negatively impacted its speed and competitiveness. As Jamie leaned back in her chair, she felt the full weight of her frustration. What was all her education, skills, and experience with the organization worth if she couldn't work and contribute to the best of her ability? What was the point of being here? Maybe she shouldn't put as much energy into her job and should spend more of her energy on life outside of work. Maybe she should leave the organization altogether. Over the next 2 weeks, Jamie continued to think about what had happened after the meeting and her past experiences while working there. As she reflected on each incident of feeling stifled and smothered by naysaying colleagues or being micromanaged, she thought more seriously about her career options. When I accepted this job, I had 4 other job offers, and 2 of those companies indicated I had an open offer. They really wanted me. As much as she cared about the people in her current company, she had reached a momentous decision. It was time to move on. She decided to hand in her letter of resignation to Christina. Okay, there you have it. A wonderful organization. So next slide, please. So hopefully many of you have been on Zoom before and have annotated. So we're going to ask you on a scale, you can go to the next slide. To what extent have you seen or heard or been a part of a similar work experience? Whether you've been a consultant to one organization, lived in one organization like this, know a colleague or a family member who's lived in that organization. And if you go to your top of the screen where it says view options, the third thing down says annotate. And then on your left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a check mark that you can use, for example, or some other star or an X. And what we'd like you to do is put 0 would be, no, I've never seen it. 10 would be, oh yeah, I've lived that or I've seen it. And put a mark where you have experienced that, seen it, or heard about it. So 0 is, nope, I'm pretty good. I've never been in one of those organizations or know of that. 10 would be, oh boy, yeah, that's my life, or that's somebody else's life that we've seen. So if you can annotate, if you have a question about annotation, please ask. Okay, we got 110. 0 from Ryan. Okay, I'll put you in, Ryan.
I clicked on the there's like a little pencil thing or whatever, and I clicked on that.
You can do it that way too. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know what that is. I just posted it in the chat. Sorry.
That's fine.
What do you want me to check?
Jeremy. I did it. I did Jeremy's.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy, I got your 10. Others? 8 from Yvonne. Okay. If it's easier, just put in the chat. We'll put it up there. Okay. Another 8 from Holly.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's not accessible at all for a blind person.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
Kira,
didn't need to cough in
I
here.
got your 6, Kira. Anybody else? So let's hear a couple of voices. I think it was Ryan who had a 0, like you've never experienced that. Thank you. Your comments, or anybody else who want to talk about why your number. So just unmute and let's hear your voice.
So Ryan might be a little light on the work experience. That might be why. But I've just seen so many people. I mean, they turn into, I call them sheeple after a while, because their ideas, aren't even heard, right? They're not even considered. And it's just so sad, because I think a lot of leaders are stuck in the old paradigm that they have to have all the decisions, make all the decisions. And really what I think a leader's job is to harness the ideas, harness the, suggestions that come along, and then to implement the ones that make sense.
Yeah. So anybody else? Holly, Ryan, Jeremy, your number?
How about the sixes? Or anyone, but
Well, I think
Go ahead.
I
I
was
think
just gonna
Jeremy, you go first and then I'll go.
yeah, I was just gonna say, what makes that a really tough question for me is I've worked with many clients where I have seen it,
Uh-huh.
and then I've worked with other clients where I haven't,
Mhm.
right? And
Sure.
usually this is gonna sound a little self-absorbed. It's not meant to be, but what I find is the ones that are actually approaching things from a collaborative perspective, you tend to see it a lot less.
Mhm. Right.
And just for the record, by the way, my covering my face had nothing to do with this conversation. It was a text that I got about something
No.
coming out of DC. So we'll just
Oh.
leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yvonne.
All right. And Yvonne, just quickly, we're going to move on. Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen it in all different kinds of ways. And Kimberly, I like what you said about the old paradigm or old mindset, where the boss, I call it in Spanish, el jefe, it was the el jefe syndrome, and that they know best. And therefore, people do not have the agency. Also, it comes across from colleagues saying something like, oh, we did that 5 years ago. It's not going to work now. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents in there that I've seen it so many, many times.
Yeah. We love your 2 cents, Yvonne.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Tara, next slide, please. So we want to just share with you our definitions. So when we think about individual and team agency, we think about a couple of things. One is agency is a focus on both the independence of the individual and the need for interdependence, kind of what Jeremy was saying about collaboration and co-creation with others to accomplish goals for organizational betterment. So it's not just about what I want or, my own needs. It's about ours. And it's also always about mission, vision, strategy of the organization. When people have agency, they have autonomy, authority, and the ability to take leadership in their role, which I love. We just wrote an article for Training and Development magazine, in which we talk about a leader in every seat. And it's really about people having the ability to act, not having to wait to get, senior leaders okay, or senior leaders, everything being bumped up to the senior leader to make a decision. And as one of our clients talks about, it's really about having an ownership mindset. So the question becomes, how do you create an ownership mindset that people really feel like, what would you do if this was your company? And really being able to act instead of just waiting to be told what to do. Next slide. So it's surely about ensuring all people of all roles, levels, tenure, identities have the power, influence, and voice to make choices and decisions related to their jobs and the betterment of the organization. And, this becomes so important because it's not only limited to senior level leaders. It's not only limited to certain identities or people in certain levels of power or influence, or, the whole question about when new people have fresh eyes and bring that into the organization, they bring their expertise into the organization. Or is it, no, sit in your seat, wait your turn and learn about us, as opposed to what are you seeing? So all of those things become critical in terms of what we think about as agency. All right, Brett, I'll move it to you.
Next slide. So why individual and team agency? As we were thinking about, what was the word? What was the next word?
Sorry, Tara.
Just that's fine. Just do it.
Mhm.
When we're thinking about what's the next word, people were acting like inclusion was the end. That once we had inclusion, we had finished the evolution of the organization and the evolution of the human species. And Judith and I didn't quite think that might be true. And so as we start thinking about it, we start thinking about what's the word, what's the concept that we can talk about. And I was sitting in an airport and waiting for plane to board and take off. That was the old days when planes boarded and took off versus these days when planes just stay there and you wait for them forever. And I saw this parent of a toddler interacting with their child. And as the parent, let the toddler just explore. But as the toddler came to a danger area, the parent would stand in front of the steps as a danger area, or stand in front of the machine if it was a danger area. So the parent would block the danger areas, but it let the child explore inside that danger area. And I saw other parents who just had their child, put them in a chair and said, don't move, don't breathe, wait for the airplane to leave. And as I was seeing this toddler moving around, it was clear to me that that child had agency. That child felt like the world is here, and I am here, and I have energy, and I see things, and I'm going to move towards them, and I'm going to move. And I felt like, I think most, if not all of us, had that when we were born and had that as we were growing up. And then the world starts saying, you don't do this, you can't do this.
Right.
If you're a boy, you can't do this. If you're a person of color, you can't do this. If you're white, on and on and on. And instead of having that freedom to move within the space, it was almost like a straitjacket in a chair. And so I start thinking that child, what that child has is the freedom, is the agency. It's inside out. It's not somebody giving that child agency. That child had felt agency and exercised it. So that's kind of how this word kind of came to mind in the image that we create and how we talk about an organization. So it's the next step regarding the evolution of the organization, especially work interactions. People want agency now. No ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Jeremy says as a blind child, his parents let him ride horses and bicycles. And oh my gosh, my hat goes
Yes,
off to your parents. I mean, oh my
yes,
God.
yes.
Oh.
I would come back after a morning ride, because I would ride before my parents got up, and I'd come back and I would have like scraped knuckles, and my dad would be like, "Is the mailbox still standing, or do we have to fix it?" Right? It was never, "You can't do that again." It was just like, "Go clean your hand."
And the reality of it is, part of being a human being is taking risk. And part of taking risks is going to skin your arms sometime and skin your legs sometimes. But that's all part of the process of learning and growing. Nobody learns how to ride a bike without falling. Once you fall on the bike, then you really figure out how to do it. So falling, making mistakes, making errors, and getting back up is part of the human experience towards betterment.
And some of us have been told no, and we just, we just keep sharing our ideas and thoughts because
Yes.
we're a little stubborn.
Yeah.
Right. And if the punishment gets to be too much, then you either look for a new place or you stop sharing the ideas. And so how do we create a place where you don't have to go through all that crap to be able to make a contribution to the organization? So people want agency now. They don't want to be smothered. When we were writing the book, the publisher said, well, what's the opposite of agency? And we thought for about half a second, it's being smothered. People are smothered in our organizations. How do we unleash that? The need for speed, greater information, and the reality of generative AI. AI is a game changer. And it's coming fast. Like I said, the speaker said 5 years. We got 5 years to get different, get better, get aligned with the new realities of the world. And AI is a key partner of that.
And then what happens if they don't? Obsolescence?
Yeah, I always think back of we just went through the turn of this century, 25 years ago. And I was thinking the turn of the last century. The turn of the last century, most of the companies that exist at the turn of the century didn't exist 10 or 20 years into that century. So lots and lots and lots of organizations will just go out of business. They will be obsolete. They'll hold on to the past. They'll think that one great idea was the only great idea that the world needs and find out they need more. Innovation, 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 innovation. That's the key to organizational success, especially when we're moving at a speed of change like this. So yeah.
I mean, Fred and Kimberly, I was thinking about one of our early clients was Digital Equipment Corporation. And digital was like the innovator around computers and all of that. And then the CEO couldn't imagine a computer that would fit on your desk. And people had that idea in the company. He didn't listen to people in the company. They no longer exist.
Mhm.
So, there's lots of, and they had lots of cash. I mean, they were cash rich. I mean, they were doing really well, but they couldn't iterate to the next thing. And, so many organizations that basically are going to die because they're not able to keep up with the changes that need to be, whether it's in leadership, whether it's engaging people, whether it's in talent, whether it's in innovation, and all of those things come together.
I always remember that joke about when horses were the thing, and people would ask people in the surveys, "What do you want?" And they would say, "I want a faster horse." So we could have done faster horses, or we could have invented the automobile.
Right.
Um,
That's a
so-
Henry Ford quote. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3, people are knowledge workers, but we're not treating them like knowledge workers. We're still treating them like the hands and feet of old, of the Industrial Revolution. And people are feeling underutilized in our organizations. And we have to unleash them. We have to break out of that. People want trust, respect, ability to do their best work, to contribute. And I think people unconsciously or consciously saying, do you want my thinking or not? I'm here. I got a lot to think. I got a lot of ideas. What do you want? And a lot of organizations say, we want some of them, but not all of them. Oh, not today, tomorrow. Oh, we like it the way we've always done it. Why would we want to change it, et cetera. Next slide. Systemic change to unleash individual and team agency. Next slide. So just a couple of comments about it. There's a lot more in our book, and I would really encourage people to get it. We have a lot more detail there. Need to create interaction safety. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to exercise their agency. And I know there's a lot of talk. Hi, baby. There's a lot of talk about There's a lot of talk about psychological safety, which is good. She was writing the book about psychological safety. We're writing a book about interaction safety. But I feel in our organizations, it's hard for people to say, I don't feel psychologically safe. Because I don't know if many leaders would say, oh, well, I'm prepared to deal with that. Let me do that. Most of them are going to say, why don't you go to the nurse's office? Because that's what the nurse is for that stuff. But when you say I don't have interaction safety, that's absolutely the responsibility of the leader, the manager, the person who's leading the team. They have a responsibility to make sure that you feel safe enough to have the interactions necessary to do your job. So need to create interaction safety for people thinking and wisdom to be heard. The answers are in the organization. We got to make sure people can do it. A couple of shifts, there's more than that. Senior leaders committed to the change. Sorry, can I go back a slide? Mm-hmm. Senior leaders committed to the change process and modeling new behaviors. That is big. Senior leaders saying, I'm going to be so many examples of leaders who say, we got to change. We got to be different. I expect all y'all to be different, and y'all better start being different tomorrow. And the leader doesn't change one iota, nothing. Leaders got to say, we got to be different. We got to change. And here's one difference I'm making right now. They got to talk. They got to lead the change. They got to. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world, but something that has people feel like we're all in this together. And this leader who never spoke to anybody is now speaking to everybody. The leader who comes in a room and acts like they have all the answers is now saying, what do y'all think? The leader who does this, that, and the other, that now shows us that one, they're part of the team, but two, they're learning and growing, and they expect us to learn and grow. So senior leader commitment to the change process and modeling new behaviors, absolutely critical. People have had enough false promises, false starts, leaders saying you do it and I don't. Managers moving from checkers, which was said earlier, to removing barriers. That's the manager's job. Get things out of my way so I can do the job you pay me for. Talk to people and help me make the connections across the organization so I can connect with the people that creates the web that allows us to do better work and me do my job. That's the leader. That's the manager's job in the organization. And individual and teams taking greater decision-making and ownership. I have a client that we're working with that when they start a project, somebody has project responsibilities. Once they have a plan for the project, they send it out to like 20 or 30 people. They give them comments. Their comments come back. The person adjusts the comments, send it back out. And then people give them new comments that weren't in the original comments they gave them. And so now that process takes the company, the people, 6 months to go from let's do this to we have alignment to do this. 6 months is not acceptable. And if the thing is that we got 5 years to change these organizations, we just lose a whole chunk of our thing trying to get one project moved in the organization. We got to move our organizations faster. We got to put decision-making down. We got to have leaders stop doing jobs 2 to 3 levels below their job grade. And like, you're getting paid a lot of money to do a job that get paid a lot less, and do your job. Your job is to be at this level, doing these things. Line if you're at the top of the organization, strategy and connecting the dots and letting people know that you appreciate them and you value them in the organization. Get that ownership down in the organization so that people know this is the territory, this is a space we can think about, make decisions about, and move the organization about. Doesn't mean we don't do it, collaborate and inform others, but we're not letting everybody be a blocker to us getting done what needs to be done in the organization. Organizations are going to realize it's better to make a little mistake on a project and get it and move it than see a mistake or see something that's not right and try to have it perfect. Perfection is the enemy of speed. And we need to have our organization move faster. People will adjust in process. If you got the right people, they'll see that mistake or they'll see that betterment that they can do, and they'll adjust in process. Versus, let's get it all perfect before we start implementing. Nobody's got that time anymore. And finally, I said it, individual and teams taking and growing greater decision-making and ownership. One of our clients talks about, I want everybody in the organization to feel like an owner. If this was your company, if this was your organization, what's the decision that you would make? That's what leaders should be asking people, not people come in the room and say, I'm thinking about this. What do you think I should do, leader? The leader should not give the answer. One is that person's thought about it more than the leader, probably more time. The leader should say, what do you think first?
Never go to your boss without a suggested solution, right? For the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's something that you can buy into and defend and move forward. And something your boss will say, let's do it. That should be the boss's job. Go do it. We're working with a utility company, and we put together a group of people who are going to make change suggestions in the organization. And we had the CEO come to talk to them at the very beginning of the project. And he said, I'm going to tell you right now, when you come back with your recommendations, my position is going to be say yes. So give me your best work, give me your best thinking. My job is to say yes. And he was true to that. When they finally came back at the end, he said yes to like 90-95% of what they said. That's what all leaders need to be doing. We got to move faster. You got smart people, treat them like smart people. Stop treating them like they're not smart. And everybody's got to check everything they do to try to get something perfect that all of a sudden wasted more time than you would have otherwise. How do we get there? Actions for every level. So in our book, we have assessments for leaders. We have assessments for individual contributors, assessment for HR, assessment for CEOs and other leaders organization.
I love the assessments.
Thank you. Thank you. They were fun and they're fun. And people are using them. And we're going to talk a minute about some of the examples of how people have been using Betterment. And then if we have time, which we may have at least 2 minutes, we're going to let people get in small groups, just talk for a second to each other before we adjourn. So complete the assessments, and there's individual self-assessments, page 144 and 159. Identify challenges and benefits to having great agency. What is the organization going to gain? What are you as an individual going to gain from it? Lots to gain. Let's get clear. Let's get explicit. Let's have that conversation with our managers. Talk to your manager about your role and where you can exercise more agency. I had a group, as one example. I had a group of 150 of the top leaders in organizations. I had them bring their job descriptions to the workshop that I was doing. And then I had them look at what is in your job description that you can delegate down to the next level of the organization. Everybody had things in their job description they could delegate down. What the hell are we doing? We need the leaders to focus on the things that are right for their level, push things down in the organization. Pushing things up, people do to cover their ass. We got to push things down in the organization so organizations can move faster. Talk with your manager about your role and where you can exercise good agency. Understand the boundaries and the guardrails. What are the guardrails? Guardrails are good. Guardrails are healthy. Guardrails give freedom. Guardrails give people the sense that they have autonomy and there's a place where they should collaborate, partner with, or inform others or pass something to others. Talk with your peers. What do you need from each of them? Communicate the why. That's a big thing now. People want to know. They'll get knowledge workers. Give them the why. They'll figure out how to solve the problem. What's the why? What's the why? What's the why? Don't just tell them do this. That's the whole Industrial Revolution model. And then support others. So those are the things that individuals can do to move agency forward on an individual level. So the self-assessment, I'm just going to read a couple of these. I understand how my work connects to the organization, vision, mission, strategic direction. Critical. How does your organize? How does that relate? How does it make sense? What are you doing? That old story about NASA. Group of visitors going through NASA. See a janitor. Say to the janitor, what do you do here? The janitor says, my job here is to put a person on the moon. If that janitor did not do their job, and every janitor in the organization, NASA, didn't do their jobs, there would be no person on the moon. You can guess why there wouldn't be one there. I have clarity about the boundaries of my work. I know the scope of my work. I know where I have authority. Number 7. I have autonomy and authority needed to accomplish my job. So I'm assessing these on a 0 to 10 scale. Where do I fall? Where am I now? Am I at 0 or am I at a 10? How do I get to 8, 9, and 10? We say 8, 9, and 10 high performance, but even if you're at 8, you can move to a 10. My manager understands what I need to exercise agency. Next slide. Unleash an agency team actions for teams. Clarify what agency means for each team member. Establish norms. I go to meetings, I go to groups where people don't talk about what the ground rules are for the group anymore. We just start working and then we start talking and there's no ground rules about it. I'm really talking to all our clients about this old thing, old concept called ground rules. Now we act like everybody knows them. Everybody's got different ground rules. How do we operate in this meeting? What's going to let us be highest performing? What are the ground rules for happy? Do I raise my hand? Do I just speak up when I speak up? What do I do? We need ground rules established again. And then number 6, identify where individuals have decision rights and where team collaboration is needed. So that's in teams. Next slide.
So I'll take it from here. So, as you can see, these build on each other. And in many ways, what we're saying is some of the things is people have to understand their boundaries. They have to understand how their work connects to the mission, vision, and strategy. So we're just going to do a couple for managers. But managers have an interesting role because not only do they have to deal with their own way of being a manager and how they're managing their team members, but they also themselves have to unleash their individual agency. And we know middle managers in particular often feel squeezed in the middle from everything. And many of them feel like they have to control everything. And so what we're saying, it really means a major shift in role for managers. And one of the things in our book, we talk a lot about some of the research that's also been done in terms of thinking about the shift of managers' roles. So some of the things is, you got to slow down. As Kimberly was talking about, slowing down even for 2 minutes to focus, right? But we want team members, as a manager engages with their team members. One is what Fred has suggested about really getting clear about what you can delegate down to people and to team members and trusting your people. And asking team members, what do they need to exercise their agency? And then the manager's role is really about taking actions to remove barriers that block agency. And so there's a collaborative process between the manager and their team members about how do we make this work? Where do I need my manager, for example, if I'm having this conversation with my manager, to raise issues and communicate those to higher levels of managing across the organization? Where do I need, for example, that we can just take the ball and run with it individually or with our team members? And so it's getting those conversations front end and checking along the way to see how we're doing. So it's not a one and done. It's multiple conversations to say, how is this working? How am I letting go? How am I engaging? How am I taking that autonomy? What do I need from you as my manager? So that's kind of thinking about it. And again, there are more actions in the book. We just wanted to highlight a few. Next slide, please. And the only other thing I would say before we get to the client examples is we also have a similar list for senior leaders, for HR and management systems that you can also look at in terms of those actions, as well as the self-assessments for each of those dimensions as well. So we're going to talk about a few client examples. The first one is when we worked with Toyota in the marketing sales organization. This was an example of where people didn't have agency. And the CEO, everything had to bubble up to the CEO to make a decision, even about what color an ad should be. You know, what color green was the right color, because the people weren't trusted in terms of deciding for themselves. And when they were trying to do the Scion card, developing that, one of the problems was they had young people in the group who had no voice. And when they began to change that, then they were actually able to innovate and create a new brand. But what we do know about Toyota, which is interesting, is in their manufacturing side, they have the ability to push a button to stop the line, which is the and-on cord is what it's called. Now it's the and-on button. But what that does is if there's a problem that anybody sees in production, they have the autonomy and the authority to push that button to stop the line to address it. And what we were working with them on is how do we have that same thing in the culture, that anybody can raise an issue, that anybody can push, pull the cord, literally, figuratively, to be able to do that. And that was really the work of the cultural work on that. We've also worked with the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. And when we started working with them, people wouldn't speak up. They wouldn't talk in a town hall meeting. When the CEO, the executive director had a meeting, it was like crickets. They began to, as they've done this work on individual and team agency, they began to engage much more in those meetings. And one of the things that many of the managers started doing is giving people their budget discretion so that they could, up to a certain amount of money, actually buy the things that they needed for their jobs without having to go to their manager to justify everything. So all of those things gave people a sense of, I can make a decision here. And there was a very heavy silo culture, which is like, if I see something wrong in another department, don't deal with it. And they began to have a much more shared sense of across the zoo and gardens about, if I see something, I can raise it, I can help make it better, and really seeing themselves as actors in the whole way of making the organization a better organization. One of the outcomes of that is that they were having struggles to get volunteers. And then all of a sudden, a lot of people started volunteering as they felt like there was more agency for people. And lastly, Fred's already talked about Dane Zimmerman, which is a privately held family-owned business, $3 billion organization. The CEO always asks people, Hal always asks people, what would you do if this is your company? And really seeing the need for people to act as owners and the need for interaction safety. And they've really worked hard at that over the years. So next slide, I think that's you, Fred.
So I was in a meeting with senior leader, who was the CEO, and that person's direct reports. And during the course of the meeting, the CEOs made notes. And it wasn't like the CEO always to make notes. And so at the end of the meeting, the CEO said, I've written down all the things that you've asked me questions about that you don't need to ask me questions about. You should just take action. And so, you asked me this question. You don't need to ask me that. It's in your authority, do it. So, you asked this question, and went through every one of them and said, y'all do it. And I've been recommending to our clients that they start doing that. What are they asking you? Because they think they should ask up the organization, that they don't need to ask you. You trust them. You've hired them. They're competent. They should go and make it happen. We got to do that throughout our organizations. Okay, next slide. So we like to get you on breakout rooms at least for 5 minutes or so. How can individual and team agency be unleashed in your organization or organization you're consulting with? And how will that benefit individual teams in the organization? We're just going to give you like 5 minutes, come back. We'll hear what you want to say. Any other comments have? I think we have 2 more slides we'll share real quickly. And so we're good on time. So I think Tara's put you in grouping. So if when you see the indicator, just go to that group. If there's any problem with finding the group, just come back to this main room and we'll be here and we'll sort it out.
I've put the breakout questions in the chat.
Great.
If you want to copy them so you have access to them more easily in your breakout room.
We are okay being invited back and say, this time you come back, let's just talk. Let's
Okay.
talk, do Q&A, see what people are thinking. We could both talk about something that's high in our thinking right now. is stimulating
I
us.
would love that.
And then we can just say, we can talk about what stimulated us. You can talk about a individual team agency or anything else related to OD. We've both been in OD for 50 years, so we got a few comments about it. Let us know if that's helpful to you.
I would love that.
You got it.
One more minute.
And then we can share some of our other tricks in addition to people having a moment of silence.
One of my favorite stories, and I think I got it from Opening Doors, was when they walked through, an employee walked through with the plant manager walked through with the company owner.
Yes.
And they said, I wonder how many lights are in this place. And, is it a notion? Is it a boulder? Is it a what? I have told that story so many times.
Yes. Yep. And I stayed up all night counting, right?
Yeah. And they use
True
overtime
story.
dollars. And, it's just, it really, in so many ways, it just boils down to communication,
I agree.
right?
I've asked leaders that told that story and asked leaders about, say, how many of you have had that experience of people doing a project that you didn't even know you asked them for?
Yeah.
How many people have found people doing projects that, oh yeah, Fred wanted this.
Yeah. Why are my roses, right? How come we don't have?
How we doing, Tara?
30 seconds.
Okay.
I want my yellow roses.
Let's put the PowerPoint up when you're ready.
And I've told my kids, I probably told every one of well, not everyone, but my kids, at least that story a couple times, it just saves you so much mindless work,
Oh my
right?
goodness. Yes.
Always, yeah.
And then the embarrassment of going back to them and having them be like, what?
Hello, welcome back.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Right.
We had a nice conversation, Holly and I.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh my God.
So go ahead, Judith.
We're going to just do a couple of slides, then we're going to open it up to hear what you thought about or comments. We're going to go through these slides pretty quickly because one of the things that Kimberly had asked us to talk a little bit about is some of the pitfalls, and some of these are really the other side of what we talked about in terms of what's needed. So obviously not connecting individual, team, agency, mission, vision, and strategy. People have to know, why are we here, right? No guardrails, assuming more or less autonomy than allowed. So people need to know, what are those guardrails so we can decide in those. People abdicating their agency, not bringing their voice. Only focusing on individuals to have agency as opposed to doing the systemic change. And I'll talk about the systemic change in a minute. People not checking in along the way to decide, how is this working and what do we need to adjust? Because it's so easy to just say it's a pass-fail test. It's working, it's not working. People aren't taking it. People are taking too much. How do we really adjust along the way? Not aligning your rewards, your performance management systems, your hiring criteria, all of these things to an organization in which greater agency is really a fundamental need and expertise. And obviously not having the foundational interaction safety that's needed for people to speak up. So there's a lot more of this in the book, but we wanted to just highlight a few. Next slide, Tara. And then in terms of the change effort or the betterment effort, we really see this as it's in some ways a traditional OD intervention, understanding the need for change, initial positioning of the change. We believe positioning is the most important part of any change or betterment effort, is that you really got to make sure that you've got the foundation for that instead of just going right to implementation, then implementing it, and then continuous improvement. And for each of these, we talk about some specific actions that are necessary to get to those dimensions. So how do you test? How do you create a from-to vision? How do you use that from-to vision as a catalyst for being able to measure progress along the way as you get to different places? So all of those things become critical. And again, we go through each step in the book as well. All right, Fred, you can go to comments.
Oh.
So let's do faces. So let's hear thoughts and comments coming out of small groups or anything that we've said that stimulated you We have about 6 minutes. We'll hear comments for about 4 of those, and we'll wrap up.
Bye, Jeremy.
You know what? Actually, if I can go now, I'll do it.
Go.
Sorry.
Go.
Sorry, guys. I was back to back. So first, we had to actually take a step back in our group and identify what team agency meant before, because we tried to dive right in the first one and it just wasn't going. So it was a spur of the moment. Let's try to define that. And what does that mean for us? Once we got there, some things that we talked about
Excuse
included.
me, Jeremy, how did you define it?
We kind of went around and said, what does it mean to each of us?
Mhm.
And honestly, Fred, I didn't write it down.
Okay.
But we were struggling with the first question, because when I said, how do we unleash team agency, there was question of what does that mean? What's team, right? So that's why I did it. Once we got that defined, then it was things like helping people step up and ask for what they need in order to bring that agency in, better understanding the dynamics that are in play with each other, and maybe even at that leadership piece, we just didn't have a chance to go there, and really taking a step back to, ask what each of us could, not just what we need, but what can we do to help move agency, unleash agency into where we're going.
Good.
So, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I
No, you have
love
to-
you both so much. I wish I could be here all day.
Yeah. I think the other thing about team agency is the ability to make things happen, to move the organization, not to have 300 people second guessing you. Move it, make it happen. You are unleashed to change the organization for better. Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate you.
Jeremy,
You're
I
so
think
welcome.
I love him more.
I don't know.
It's not a
All right,
problem.
I'll
Today.
follow up with both of you.
We
Enjoy
can
your
argue
trip.
about that
Thank you.
later.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right,
Take
bye.
care. Bye.
Let's hear from somebody else. Another comment, thought, reflection. How makes this make sense to you?
So my well, we didn't really get to, like Jeremy said, but one of my main things would be to because some people are afraid of stepping up and taking their decisions, or they have had a bad experience in the past where they have tried to step up to the leadership role and show that initiative, but they might have had a bad experience with one of their ex-managers or supervisors. So my thing would be support everybody, hear them out, see what they have to say before you shut them down, or lead them in the right example to where they feel comfortable enough to take that initiative and make a decision without second guessing themselves and needing approval from somebody before they make a decision.
Right on.
That's
Right
a
on.
great point, Loreno. I mean, I think it's a muscle that you develop, right? And the
Right.
more you do it, the easier it gets.
And more
Right.
leaders got to be thinking. I start with, yes, I got highly competent people working for me. When they come in my office, or they come meet me in the hallway or wherever I am, and they come to me with an idea, I should be thinking, yes, or let me add to it so that we can get to yes. And
Right.
that's got to be the stance versus, oh my God, why are they bugging me with this crap?
Right. And I have a little bit of a management experience, and it's even the little things. I'd get 10 calls, 20 calls. Do I do this? Do I do this? And I'm like, you feel free, feel free to do it. If you need something different, it's okay. Like, I always try to make them feel confident enough where they make a decision by themselves instead of having to call me 20 times and asking for approval.
I know. That's right on, right on. I'm going to move to Diane. Diane, you had a comment?
Yeah, the topic is so appropriate for our organization because we are employee owned. We're an ESOP, and we've just became an ESOP in 2022. And in talking to other employee-owned organizations across the country who have been at it longer than we have, we've heard that it takes 3 to 5 years to get everyone to understand what it means to behave like an owner.
Yeah.
And I thought all of this conversation maybe could accelerate that, so it doesn't take 3 to 5 years. But it was just so appropriate for us, because that's what we've been having, those conversations. But instead of using the word agency, we're using the word owner, because everyone is an owner.
You go together, yeah. And you don't have 5 years.
No, we don't have 5 years. And it's a competitive advantage for us if we get there faster, because there's no one in our area who is employee owned like we are. So
that's great, great.
And could I ask really quick, could you give us the name of your book again? I didn't get it down when you said it earlier.
Great, Jude.
The Power of Agency. Good. Thanks, Kimberly. The Power of Agency, Cultivating Autonomy, Authority, and Leadership in Every Role.
Okay. Thank you.
And with the blurred background, it's harder to see. So
Yeah. That's
okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. I know our time is up, so I want to thank everybody and be appreciative and love the conversation. And we told Kimberly anytime she wants to have us come back and just have kind of an open forum about things, we'd be glad to do that.
Well, you know, maybe we can do that in the beginning of the year.
Sounds good.
Point. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Love
That
it.
would be so wonderful.
Sign us up.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, having a dialogue is important.
Thank you
you.
very
Bye.
much.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care of
Bye.
yourselves.
Thank
Be
you.
safe out there. Bye-bye.